So one of the big stories of the 2024 election was the performance of Reform UK and just how similar it was to UKIP in 2015. Both parties were led by Nigel Farage, both parties had an anti-immigration platform, and both parties finished third in terms of the number of votes cast. The main difference between these parties is that Reform won more seats, winning 5 to UKIP's 1. Now, given the tensions in Britain at the moment surrounding immigration, it is particularly important now to understand the main party that is pushing immigration as a political issue. So where did Reform UK's voters come from? Well, a lot of their voters voted for UKIP in 2015. Many of them also voted for the Conservatives in 2015, before both sets of voters moved wholeheartedly behind the Conservatives in 2017 and 19. However, since 2019, those voters have defected away from the Conservatives and wholeheartedly behind Reform. So how did Reform UK attract these voters away from the Conservatives? Well, in short, Reform UK voters placed a lot of emphasis on immigration and they didn't believe that the Conservatives could reduce it successfully. If we look at this graph, we can see that people who were very likely to vote for Reform just didn't believe that the Conservatives could reduce immigration and they thought that Reform UK could. This is very similar to UKIP in 2015, whose supporters thought that UKIP could reduce immigration where the Conservatives wouldn't. Now, this is very different to 2017 and 2019, where the Conservatives were able to use Brexit to unify pro-Leave anti-immigration voters to back them in those elections. But now, with Brexit being less of an immediately salient issue, the Conservatives struggling because of their perceived performance, and also the perceived inevitability of Labour's victory in 2024, there was less of a pull on these right-wing voters to encourage them to vote for the Conservatives over Reform. Another contributing factor here is almost certainly the return of Nigel Farage as leader of Reform UK. If we look at this graph here, we can see that many of those who like Nigel Farage were already going to vote for Reform before he returned as leader. However, after his return, even more of the people who liked Nigel Farage switched to backing Reform. Most of those people were previously undecided, but some of them were going to vote for the Conservatives or Labour. Now, we can't know definitively why this was the case, but it's possibly because Nigel Farage is more well known than Richard Tice, and also because he was more popular among those undecided voters. Overall, there are a lot of similarities between 2015 and 2024. The presence of Nigel Farage, the salience of immigration as an issue, and the Conservatives' competency problems. However, the Conservatives did manage to attract these right-wing voters to back them in subsequent elections. The problem for them now is they lack a unifying issue like Brexit, and they are far more unpopular than they were in 2015. As a result, the question will be, how far can Reform go, and how much will they be able to convince these former Conservative voters to back them going forward?